If you've ever wondered if cutting carbs is the secret to weight loss success, you're not alone. There is so much confusion about carbohydrates and their role in general in a healthy diet. Today I'm sharing the science behind carbohydrates, the truth you need to know, and how you can make carbohydrates work for you. Stick around because by the end of this video, you'll have a whole new perspective on carbohydrates and their role in weight loss. But before we get too far into it, let's first talk about what a carbohydrate is. A carbohydrate is simply one of the three macronutrients that our body needs to function. The other two being fat and protein. When we consume carbohydrates, that gets digested into an energy source or glucose for our body to use for energy. In fact, our brain cannot function without glucose. It is also important to understand that there are two different types of carbohydrates. There are simple carbohydrates and then there are complex carbohydrates. These are just as it sounds. A simple carbohydrate is a simple structure that is really easy for our body to break down and can quickly turn that into glucose and energy. Some examples of simple carbohydrates are like refined sugar, added sugar into foods, cakes, cookies, candies, also includes white flour and foods made with white flour. And then as you can guess, complex carbohydrates are a more complex carbohydrate structure that takes longer for our body to digest and convert that into glucose or energy. Examples of complex carbohydrates are whole grains, carbohydrates from whole wheat bread, whole wheat pasta, oats, quinoa, brown rice. There's many more. Those are just a few. Next, we're going to talk about 5 common myths when it comes to carbohydrates and weight loss, why these are not true, and what you can take away from this video for your weight loss success. The first myth is oftentimes people think carbs make people gain weight. Many people believe that consuming carbs directly leads to weight gain, and this is not true. In reality, the proper types of carbohydrates should be included into a healthy diet. And when eating the correct types of carbohydrates and proper portions, these do not lead to weight gain. Carbohydrates are the primary energy source for our body. Our body needs carbohydrates. However, we want to focus on eating the proper types, such as those from complex carbohydrates, and limit and try to avoid the carbohydrates that come from that processed, those simple carbohydrates. The second myth that I want to talk about is that some people think that all carbs are bad, when in reality, there are many carbohydrates that are super healthy for our body. Complex carbohydrates, whole grains, fruits, vegetables are jam-packed with so many nutrients, fiber, antioxidants that have so many additional health benefits. It is the refined carbs, the simple carbs, that we want to try to avoid or limit as much as possible. When we consume a simple carbohydrate, that carbohydrate is digested very quickly, and that causes our blood sugar to rise very quickly. What happens is since our body digests that so much quicker, we have a shorter amount of time to burn off that energy. Versus if we eat a complex carbohydrate that takes longer for our body to digest that, our blood sugar rises slower and we have more time to burn off that energy. If we don't burn off that energy that our body got from the food, it is converted and stored for later use as body fat. That's why it makes more sense to get our primary energy from those healthy carbohydrate sources. The third myth is people oftentimes think that cutting carbs is the secret to weight loss success. In reality, diets that are well balanced with healthy carbohydrate sources, proper protein and fat are often the most sustainable and beneficial long term for our weight management and health. Oftentimes a low carb diet is very drastic, can be not safe for our body, and really difficult for our body to function on that little carbs, especially our brain. Also, another benefit of eating those proper carbohydrates is fiber. I am so passionate about fiber. Fiber has so many benefits, including helping to maintain a healthy weight. I, of course, have a separate video on fiber, so if you want to find out and learn more about fiber, I will put the link to the video right here. The fourth myth that I want to talk about is sometimes people think that carbohydrates are just in breads and pasta, when in reality, carbohydrates are found in so many more foods than just those two products. Carbohydrates are also found in fruits and vegetables, like we talked about earlier. They're also found in beans, nuts, dairy products. These are part of a wide range of whole foods that help contribute to a healthy diet and weight. The fifth and last myth that I want to talk about today is some people think that carbohydrates are just sugar. In reality, we learned already that there are two different types of carbohydrates, simple and complex. So those complex carbohydrates, our body does not think of that or use that as just sugar. There are so many other benefits benefits to that energy source. And if we focus on eating more of those whole grains, fruits, vegetables, and healthy sources of carbohydrates, our body digests that carbohydrate slower, helping with our weight management and weight loss because they include fiber, and it makes them a really healthy choice for steady energy and weight loss. So last, I want to share some tips that I have for incorporating carbohydrates into a balanced diet while working on weight loss. I definitely recommend focusing on those healthy sources of carbohydrates. If I haven't made that clear yet. These will fuel your body with proper nutrition, give you nutrients, antioxidants, that proper energy to make you feel really good every day. These are primarily going to be plant-based foods, of course, that have not been processed or that have been minimally processed. We want to try to avoid that added sugar and processed foods as much as possible. I also recommend sticking to proper portions of carbohydrates. Even when carbohydrates are healthy, it is really easy to overeat on carbohydrates. For example, my son has been obsessed with Chipotle, so we've been going there a little bit more than usual. And I got a burrito bowl and asked for brown rice, which is a very healthy carbohydrate. They were scooping it in, and I looked at the brown rice, and I think it was about 4 servings as my estimate of how much rice was added to one meal. Portion sizes have grown over time. What we think is a proper portion, in reality, is probably not. So measure or weigh your portions out of carbohydrates so that way you can start to learn what would be a proper portion of. Then it becomes easier over time to eyeball those portions. I also recommend reading labels. I also, of course, have a video on label reading, which I'll put right here. But in regards to carbohydrates, looking at the fiber, we want the fiber to be higher, and we want that added sugar to be 0 or as low as possible. Added sugar is in so many foods. So many people overeat that daily maximum recommendation of added sugar. Men should not have more than 36 grams of added sugar per day, and women should not have more than 25 grams of added sugar per day. One 12-ounce soda actually has more added sugar than what is recommended for everyone's daily limit, which is just crazy. That goes to show you how much sugar is in foods. So really start looking at those labels, ignore what's on the front of the package, flip it over, look at that boring black and white label and ingredient list. And then my last tip is to pair complex carbohydrates with protein. This will also help to slow down the digestion of those carbohydrates and help regulate blood sugar levels a little bit better, and will also keep you fuller for longer, which also helps with weight loss. For example, instead of eating just a piece of whole grain bread, put some nut butter with it when having a piece of fruit. Pair it with some nuts or some yogurt. So I hope you found this video helpful to understand carbohydrates better and their role in a healthy nutrition and weight. That's going to be all for this video. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.